Dr. Roger Lear had like a stud finder. Yes, there's a piece of metal. It was also giving out a radio frequency, which we were able to show on film. So now it's giving out a radio frequency. The thing is there, no doubt about it. So we schedule the operation with Dr. Matriciana, and we go there and we do a pre-op with the ultrasound wand. He finds the implant less than a minute. So that's a picture of the ultrasound. That's what the implant looks. There's the little round metallic object right there, casting the shadow. That's how you know what you're looking at. This is the CAT scan. There's the implant right there. See that? There's the ultrasound wand. So it's the last implant Roger took out. We could cut it with a razor knife, and it's attached to the nervous system, not the circulatory system. So now we're getting something really complex. We don't know really what this does. Emil, by the way, was never sick until we took the implant out. Whoever's doing this, whoever has been implanting people for decades now, have spent a lot of time and a lot of resources. How do we know this? Because the implant, patient 17, Emil, his implant was 40 years old. His implant was 40 years old.
The history of our Earth is so different from what we can imagine.
The Smithsonian, and if they found out about a large skeleton somewhere, was to go get it.
I'm going to assume at least one person is right, because if one person's right, it busts the paradigm.
It all goes back to the fallen cherub. And the problem with the modern day church, they have a very truncated view of the supernatural.
This backdrop that's just pregnant with all kinds of meaning associated with this Mount Hermon event.
Welcome to Blurry Creatures.
And this guy defects from the kingdom. That's a big deal.
All right, welcome back to Blurry Creatures. It is, it's UFO season. I mean, we got Congress talking about UFOs, disclosures here. A lot of people are debating about that, if it's like a real disclosure or what it is. It feels like a very PG version of telling the public what is going on behind the scenes. But we have L.A. Marzulli, author, filmmaker, explorer, on the show today. And we asked you specifically, there's a topic we haven't talked about when it comes to aliens and UFOs. It's this implants, these biological implants that they put inside of people. And LA, you dealt with these firsthand, and we wanted to talk to you specifically about that because we're kind of thematic on the show. We like to get into certain blurry topics. And if blurry creatures are out there putting implants into people, we haven't talked about this on the show at all. So welcome back, L.A. Marzulli. Thanks for coming back on Blurry Creatures.
Great to be here, guys. It's an honor.
You're a legend. You are in our intro, forever memorializing our intro, talking about that.
You guys are on. Thank you for doing that, by the way. It's great to be here. Looking forward to talking about the whole implant thing. Let me know when I can go, and I'll give you the backstory.
Hey,
let's go.
We are here for this and this this alone, LA. Take us where we're going.
So this goes back years ago. Oh, look, I'm in the TV in black and white. This goes back to 1999. My very first book is published by Zondervan. So it's like, 25 years ago, right?
Right, yeah.
And there's a man by the name of Barry Chamish, who's an Israeli reporter, who has a book called The Nephilim 2. And he's speaking at a UFO meetup group. I think it was like Oceanside, but it's south. It's like a 2 or 3 hour drive for me. But I go down there because he's got the same title as my book, Nephilim. And I go down and I listen to his talk. And at the end of the talk, I go up to him and I hold up my book like this, and his jaw drops. And that begins a friendship. Now, he passed away a few years ago. So I'm down there, chatting it up with Barry, and we're comparing notes about Nephilim and all this stuff. And, one thing leads to another. And someone goes, "Hey, Dr. Roger Lear's here." And I go, "Seriously?" Now, I knew Dr. Roger Lear. I had been emailing him. I never met him. He was based in Thousand Oaks. I'm in the Santa Monica Mountains in Malibu. So it's like 30 minutes away from me. And we had been emailing back and forth, but I never met him. And so someone came over and introduced me. And I said, "Wow, Dr. Lear, this is really, really great to meet you. I'm in your neck of the woods, and I've been trying to hook up with you. Obviously, our schedules haven't allowed that, but here we are. And I understand you removed your first implant. And this is classic Dr. Lear. You had to know him. So he goes, yeah, we removed it last week. Would you like to see it? That's the way he talks. And I go, yeah, I would love to see it. So he reaches into his pocket.
He's carrying
it. This little vial.
No way.
He pulls out a little pill bottle. He goes, here it is. Open up your hand. So I hold my hand like this, and he pops the cap off.
No.
And now I'm holding, a piece of metal about the size of a grain of rice in my hand. And I'm thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding me. Here I am, 1999, holding what may be something from another dimension, another world. I mean, who knows what?
Right.
This started a friendship between the two of us. And then later on, when Richard Shaw and I got together and we created the first Watchers series, the first film, The Watcher, Dr. Lear was in all of our Watchers films. We used to go to lunch with him, and he was Jewish, and he would always bump up against me in a friendly sort of way. So we'd be at Brent's Deli eating, and I'd be ready to take a bite out of my sandwich or whatever. Richard always ordered the same thing. He always ordered this it's like
I love this
prime rib on a roll with the gravy. Always, and he would only eat half of it and then bag the other half and bring it home and have that for dinner. It's just like clockwork. But I experimented with the menu. So I'm getting ready. I'm like this. And Roger just breaks in and goes, what about the nuns who kill their babies? And I'm like, Roger, that's indefensible. Oh, okay. And then we get back to normal. So that was the relationship, just push and pull. How about the nuns who kill their babies? I mean, how do you even?
Yeah.
Right. Roger, don't even engage. He was always looking for something to, to kind of hit me with, my Christian worldview. And we'll get to this.
Yeah.
We will definitely, and I'll tell you the last time I saw him and what happened in that operating theater when we took the implant out completely changed his worldview. Now I'm getting way ahead of the story.
Sure.
So Richard and I are doing these Watcher films. You can go to our streaming site, streaming.lamarzulli.net. There's 11 films in that series. And then Richard and I parted companies, and then we were going to get back together again. And then he passed away very unexpectedly. He had a heart condition from his birth, and it just gave out when he was 65, 66 years old. So Rick moves to Porter Ranch, and this guy shows up, and he's 7 feet tall. He's not a Nephilim. He's an ex-basketball player. He's reaching up, and he's changing the light bulbs and the smoke detectors and stuff like this. So he goes, what are you working on? And Rick goes, I'm working on a film on UFOs. So this guy, Rick's never met this guy before. This guy goes, oh, I have an implant. Just like that.
What?
Just like that. Oh, I have an implant. Rick calls me immediately. We're on the phone. 2 or 3 days later, this gentleman, his name is Emil, and it's in the film. We're walking down the street, the sidewalk, and we're about to enter Dr. Roger Lear's office. And so Emil filled out the application, the questionnaire, went right into the X-ray room. Yes, there is a metallic object right below your right knee, and there's no entry wound. Now, before I continue this story, let me back up. In 1999, when Dr. Roger Lear and I met, and I opened up my hand and he poured the implant in my hand, I was on Acceleration Radio, my show, other shows, and I began to talk about these implants. I was ridiculed. I was castigated. I was called all sorts of crazy names by my Christian brothers, who said, there's no such thing as implants. This is all demonic delusion. There's no physicality to the phenomena, blah, blah, blah. And I really take umbrage with that because there is physicality to it.
Well, they're still playing that. They're still banging that same drum. LA,
oh, yeah.
And they will continue to do that.
Yeah, the younger kids are getting feisty, telling us that it's all like an illusion, basically.
An illusion, Michael. Yes.
Rockets to the moon It's heavily debated. But one thing it isn't debated is saving money. And Rocket Money is a personal finance app that we've partnered with that finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills and grow those savings.
That's right. Like a lot of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about.
Yeah.
And when I use Rocket Money, I discovered a bunch of subs that I was paying for that I don't use, and they canceled those for me directly. Also, with the premium membership, they saved me money. They renegotiated my internet and my cell phone bill, Nate, and I'm saving up upwards of $1,000 a year because Rocket Money went in and on my behalf renegotiated my pricing for internet and cell phone.
That's awesome. Yeah. Rocket Money canceled BigfootPicks.com for me. Saved me $10, and it can give you a clear view of your expenses across the account. You know, you can create your personalized budget, keep your spending on track, get alerts if bill increases in price, and like he said, negotiate those prices for you. Rocket Money has saved people a lot of money. 5 million users have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, and we love this app here.
All right, they're saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions to reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. I know you didn't cancel your Bigfoot picks. That was a lie.
I'll keep it going.
Go to rocketmoney.com/blurry today. That's rocketmoney.com/blurry.
rocketmoney.com/blurry.
It's not at all. It's hard physicality to this thing. The ships are real. The abductions are real. The cattle mutilations are real. The crop circles are real. Yes, there's hoaxes, but in our film on crop circles, that's why we filmed the crop circle in Ohio in 8 feet of corn, 8 feet high corn. The corn is 8 feet, standing corn. How do you make a crop circle in a field of corn that's 8 feet tall? You can't do that. You can't take a string and start making this goofy circle. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And the crop was laid down like this. That's why we went with it. And it's right across from the Nephilim mounds. Hello.
Hey,
I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, how much physicality do we have to? We went out to the debris field. This is what it looks like in our film. That's a piece of the metal that we found.
Oh no, we actually we had you. We talked to you. We had an episode on that, LA, where you were.
Yeah,
you got access to the farmer land. Yeah, you guys were finding metal from the crash site.
Roswell crash, because the government didn't get it all, and the government. So there's nothing to see here. It's just a weather balloon. Then why do these guys take these 12-inch metal spikes and seed the debris field with the 12-inch metal spikes? So if you go there with a metal detector, this is what you get. So if it's a weather balloon, right?
Yeah.
Who cares, right? Who cares?
It's super interesting, LA. We were speaking with Dr. Diana Pasolka, who's written a few books on the UFO thing, and she went to a crash site in New Mexico. She was blindfolded and taken there, and she said that what they did there is from the 50s as well, is they spread a ton of aluminum cans all over the surface so they disintegrate, and you can't find the metal unless you know how to tune your metal detector. So this is so interesting. These two different. So you can't find it. They don't want you to be able to pull out anything that may have been left behind, which is physical. Again, to your point, right? Which is
I mean, the whole where I'm trying to go here is that there's absolute physicality to this.
Yeah, we need a soundbite of you, LA. Every time there's a debate, we can just press a button, and LA is like, "It's physical. Get over it." You know, we need you. But I love that debate has been going on for a long time, and people like you have been trying to push this into the space because all kinds of wacky narratives are coming, and we just need to prepare the church for that whole concept that this is much more complicated than you want to imagine. And
way more, and it disparages people like Karen Wilkinson. Yeah. I know she's been on the show. She says hi, but when Karen, we published her book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. To say that this is all demonic delusion disparages her as a witness. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, this is why our film on abductions. I mean, how many witnesses do we need to bring forward? I mean, they're taken. Sperm is taken from the men. Ovum is taken from the women. Absolute physicality to this. Anyway, so
7-footer has a.
Do we have a picture of the implant somewhere we can throw on the screen? Keep going.
All right. So we got a 7-footer with an implant below his knee, no entry, so no surgical marks, right? You don't have any entry wound, as you said.
There's no entry wound. There's no entry wound.
Jeez.
And remember when we were talking about this, everyone laughed at us. So there was a whole protocol that Dr. Roger Lear did. So we found it on the X-rays. The next thing you do, we're paying for all this, by the way.
Yeah.
So we do the x-ray. Yes, there's an implant. Then we do a CAT scan. Yes, there's a metallic object below the right knee. And the reason why Emil came to us was because he's riding his motorcycle and this thing goes off and the pain is so excruciating, he ditches his motorcycle and he's rolling on the ground.
Wow.
Happened twice.
Wow.
Happened twice. So we do the ultrasound after, well, let me back up. We took, Dr. Roger Lear had like a stud finder. Yes, there's a piece of metal. It was also giving out a radio frequency, which we were able to show on film. So now it's giving out a radio frequency. The thing is there, no doubt about it. So we schedule the operation with Dr. Matriciana. And we go there and we do a pre-op with the ultrasound wand. He finds the implant less than a minute. I mean, he looks at the x-ray, puts a little black dot where he thinks it is, squirts the gel on it, takes the wand, and I'll just use this for, a prop, takes the wand and goes like this. Here's the implant. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll take it out. So, and sure, you see that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our audio listeners, he's putting the pictures on the screen right now.
So that's Emil, and you can see in the background, this is Dr. Roger Lear here. He's assisting Dr. Matriciana. This is his leg, and this is the implant. So when we went in there, we couldn't find the implant. That's a picture of the ultrasound. That's what the implant looks. There's the little round metallic object right there, casting the shadow. That's how you know what you're looking at. This is the CAT scan. There's the implant right there. See that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's the ultrasound wand that we see. And the next thing you know, that's Dr. Roger Lear. That's Karen. So, there's the implant removal right there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely astounding when you think about it.
Hey, so was he a regular abductee? Was he somebody that has been taken, or was this like a one-time?
What, Emil?
Yeah.
Oh, Emil was. It's in our film on abductions.
Yeah.
We have 4 people. We have Karen and Angela, the two women who were impregnated by them. We have Al Matthews, who was taken. Karen was taken when she was 5 years old, up till she had 3 children by them. Angela lost one of the babies. She was floated through the same thing into the ship. They took the baby. They saw the old. It's all in the film on abductions, which is in a shameless plug, but it's in our 10-box set. There it is right there.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Right now,
10
love gift.
10 films on UFOs. We're the only Christian ministry to actually do a deep dive. Everything from Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third, Fourth Kind.
Yeah.
Abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles, Roswell, 2 films on that. I mean, what is the truth? I want to thank my business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I. We work feverishly to get these things out, and they're all out and they're available. So lamarzulli.com. So we're there, with Al Matthews. Al was taken from the time he was 5 or 6. Emil was taken 5 or 6 years old. He even talks about it. They'd find him out on the lawn in the morning. They put locks on his doors and windows so he couldn't get out of the room. And the next morning he's on the lawn. And he looks right at the camera and he goes, "Explain that to me." Right. So they were taken from a very early age, but the women were impregnated. Karen had 3 children by them. And Angela goes in, ultrasound, sees the heartbeat, sees where the baby is in the womb, and she's abducted. She goes in and, no fetal tissue, no heartbeat, nothing there in the womb. They look at her and go, "Well, are you sure you were pregnant?" I mean, this is so disturbing. And this is the deep end of the pool.
Right.
This is so disturbing, but we know this is why Genesis 3:15 is paramount in our discussion, because it's a seed war.
Yeah.
The seed of the dragon, the offspring of the dragon, will be at war with the offspring of the woman. That sets up the rest of the biblical narrative. When we get to places like Daniel chapter 243, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave. The word cleave I got from my friend Jim Williamson means a marriage contract. There is no marriage contract. That's exactly what's going on today. And we know that this is for future because the angel talking to Daniel 243 says, seal up the words in the book, Daniel, till the time of the end. And then the angel gives us what I call a supernatural clue. He tells us what the time of the end will look like. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge will increase. As we are speaking, men are running to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge increases exponentially every 6 months. So this is why in our film we have 4 people, all of them who were taken. So to say that there's no physicality, sit down and talk to these 4 people and then think again. It's very unfortunate that some people are promulgating this, but these are the same people that have a very truncated view of the supernatural and of Roswell.
There he is.
And insist that Roswell was a weather balloon. They've written books about it. They've had movies about it. And I just take, have they ever been to the debris field? Probably not. So no matter how much evidence we get or how much we show them, they're not moving, and that's fine.
Why do you think the church is so skeptical of UFOs, the physicality part of it, LA? And then I'm going to get back to the radio signal in this implant.
Yeah. I think I said this, and I know you guys were cracking up, but they have a very truncated view of the supernatural. And here's the book I'm working on now is called Supernatural Technology of the Bible. So I'll give you 2 examples from the book. All right. So Adam and Eve are booted out of the Garden of Eden, and the 2 cherubim are placed at the gate, at the east gate, which immediately begs the question: what happens to the north, south, and west gate? So is Eden somehow is part of it in another dimension? I mean, we don't know. We don't know what we're looking at. But the 2 cherubim are there, and then of course after the flood, everything is gone. So the 2 cherubim are there, and then between the cherubim is a flaming sword, which turns every which way.
Oh, I see what you're doing here.
Part Jedi.
Yeah.
Flaming sword?
Yeah.
So thousands of years ago, there's nothing in your vocabulary to say lightsaber. Sure. But what is a flaming sword? You tell me what a flaming sword is. It's a lightsaber. Plasma, I don't know what it was, but it's the cherubim aren't wielding it. That's technology. That's technology. That is technology. I'll give you one more. The breastplate of the high priest. Okay, 12 stones. Each stone represents one of the 12 tribes. And then you've got the Uman and the Thummim, which light up. Some people will say that the stones didn't light up. I believe they all lit up. And that's how they were able to communicate. The high priest would ask a question, and then the stones would light up. Some people say they didn't, but here's the story. And I checked this. This is in the book.
All right.
So don't steal it.
We won't.
We can't read or write, LA. We can't read or write. You don't know more about us.
So here's the deal. There's a pastor living in Israel, and he gets a call from South Africa. They believe that they have one of the stones from the breastplate of the high priest.
Okay. Wow.
And so he flies down there with a gemologist. And the story is this: when the Crusaders came in about 1,000 years ago to liberate Jerusalem, an old rabbi came out holding a papyrus box. I've seen pictures of it, and presented this to the Crusader, thanking him for freeing Jerusalem from the Muslims. So it's been in their family for thousands of years, 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So they fly down to South Africa. They get off the plane. It's like skull and bones. There's armed guards. They're in a limo. They get to this place, this mansion, someplace way out in the middle of nowhere. And they go into the house. There's a vault. There's armed guards in the vault.
Wow.
They open up a box or whatever. Inside that box is the papyrus box. They open up the papyrus box. There's the gemstone. They place the gemstone. I'll just use this for a prop. They placed the gemstone in the pastor's hand. I interviewed this guy, okay? place the gemstone in the pastor's hand, and the gemstone lights up.
No.
Okay.
Really?
That's what he said.
That's
I don't
wild.
think the pastor's telling me a tall one here, folks.
That's wild, LA.
Yeah.
Right? So they take the gemstone from his hand and they put it in another man's hand who essentially is a non-believer, and it doesn't light up. It doesn't do anything.
Wild.
And the gemologist refuses to touch it without gloves. So she looks at it with her, the glass, the whole deal. Inside the stone, just like this inside of here, there's a coin, right? There's a coin inside this. Inside the gemstone, and it's a rock. It's a stone.
Right.
And there's no entry, or no one's tampered with it. But inside the gemstone is the letter Bet and the head of a wolf. Benjamin is a wolf.
So that's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Priceless too. I mean, talk about these ancient relics that disappeared, like the Ark of the Covenant, articles of the temple, and of course the ephod, right? This series of stones, and to have one, man.
Well, so you're saying, basically, in a nutshell, you're saying the Bible has this very strange. There's lots of these strange narratives in there. There's these stones that glow that we don't even know where they're from. We did a whole episode on this, this fest. I think it was the original encrypted text message from God. He needed to have some sort of technology so that the message was not corruptible, or it had to be clear as day if you're going to communicate with God. If he is the king over the nation, how is he going to communicate? Well, this is like the original encryption.
Yeah, Thummim.
And so, we have lost these stories somehow. We preached other stories, and we've sort of massaged the text, and it's very simple, and it's all a moral code. Just don't sin, don't do bad things. But there's with all these narratives that the ancients understood. I mean, it was part of their culture, and now it's like, wait, what? What's in the Bible? It's kind of like this. We don't really know what's in there. So but back to these implants,
it's technology, ancient technology, and then you have this modern technology that's we would assume was being used by the nefarious, rebellious forces of darkness. That's what I was going to ask. So two things, Ellie, on this. This is obviously communicating. If it has a frequency, why are they in your mind? A couple things. How frequent do you think it is for abductees to have an implant? And then what do you believe the purposes of these implants are?
Yeah.
I don't think like Karen, I don't think she has an implant. Angela does not have an implant. Al Matthews did not have an implant, but Emil did. And when we removed it, it had already been in him for 40 years. So it's one of the first implants. And there's an evolution of the implants. Now here's the deal. This is all hard science. We have CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasound pictures. It's giving out a radio frequency, doing all this stuff. Now, you can dispute that all you want. You can tap dance around that and tell us that it really isn't an implant, that it's a piece of metal from an old childhood injury. You can say whatever you want and disparage our research, but it's hard science. Yeah. It's hard science. And there's no entry wound. So that implant was 40 years old. It was the last one Dr. Roger removed before his untimely death. It was the last time I saw him was in SEAL Lab. So we took the implant out on a Saturday. Monday, we're all at SEAL Lab looking at the implant under a scanning electron microscope. So once again, this is hard science.
It's physical. Yep.
It's like, we're the only Christian ministry ever to do this, ever. Nobody else. So, the armchair critics, and I get all this, God bless them, your brothers in Christ, but maybe you should just get some duct tape and put it over the mouth, get some duct tape over the pie hole, go find someone with an implant and do your own research and prove it's wrong. But of course, they never do that. They just sit there and they say, well, it's, blah, 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 blah. Well, we did the research. We were there. So it's the last implant Roger took out. We could cut it with a razor knife. And it's attached to the nervous system, not the circulatory system. It's attached to the nervous system. So now we're getting something really complex. And we don't know We don't know really what this does. Emil, by the way, was never sick.
Wow.
Never sick until we took the implant out.
That's weird.
So it had some biological benefit,
Really?
this implant.
And
And you
he
say
would-
it's old.
Absolutely.
It's like 40, 50 years old.
So the one
Yeah.
before that, the one that Roger took out before that, you couldn't cut it with a razor, not only a razor knife, but a diamond saw. You had to take it to a laboratory and cut it open with a laser.
So
beam.
are they improving
And
these
it-
implants? Are they getting better?
There's an evolution
Wow.
of them.
Do you think that this
Absolutely.
thing was because we know our nervous system is powered electrically? Do you think this thing was actually operating on the electric current in Emil's nervous system?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's wild. That's wild.
It's like the
Okay.
Matrix.
So we're looking
Yeah.
at technology that we don't even understand. And according to Dr. Rogers' chief scientist, Stephen Colburn, Stephen stated that there were double-walled nanotubes in that, not the one we took out, but the
Yeah.
one prior to that, double-walled carbon nanotubes. Who
do you
knows
think-
what they
What do you
did?
think they're doing? Are they? Is it a tracker? Are they manipulating his?
Feels more complex than a tracker.
Yeah, but it's like if it can broadcast, obviously, then that's kind of, it reminds me of like when you chip your dog or a great white shark or something that you're looking to kind of follow around. But it obviously is much more complex.
Yeah, it's
if
like
if
reading biological data and sending it somewhere, right?
I'll tell you what I think it is. Okay, and I've written about this. I've talked about it. So let me get. I'll get to that punchline
Let's
later.
go.
So now we've got a meal, and we've already done the ultrasound. We know where it is. Okay, so now it's the day of the removal. So we get a meal over to Dr. Matriciana's office. There's about 8 or 9 people watching the proceedings on a very large HD monitor in another room. Thank you, Richard Shaw. Richard's there, camera guys are there, and there's another guy, I won't mention his name, that Dr. Lear brought in, who's also filming. And we are there for an hour and 20 minutes. Dr. Lear takes the x-ray. Dr. Matriciana takes the x-ray, puts it over Emil's leg, makes a little dot with a black magic marker, and for an hour and 20 minutes, he's doing this. He's going over and over the air. He can't find the implant.
moved.
Can't find the implant. And to your point, moved, Dr. Lear saw an implant at one time travel from this area here all the way
from
up
like
the arm.
So if you're listening from the LA, saying from the wrist area all the way to the elbow, it
Yeah.
moved.
Yeah. Oh, they saw it. They actually saw it in the operating theater.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Matrix, when they're trying to get that implant out of them and it's moving around.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's an hour and 20 minutes. Richard and I are the only Christians in the room. And I'm looking at Rick, and Rick's going like this. And the Holy Spirit taps me on the shoulder. This is the way it works for me. And the Lord, the Holy Spirit says, you need to take authority over this. You need to pray, take authority over it, and you need to do it now. So I'm in a room of unbelievers. And I go, okay, everybody, this is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to pray and I'm going to do it now. I don't ask permission. I just take authority as a believer. It's a life lesson. And my prayer was very short and succinct. And I said, Father, if there are forces that are cloaking this device, I pray that you would break their power and do it soon. So a minute goes by, maybe 2 minutes go by. And all of a sudden the implant comes in like this, like I showed you. And there's the little circle in the x-ray with the shadow. And everybody goes, what's that? And Dr. Matriciana goes, that's the implant. So he takes the wand like this, and he looks at it and he taps it, looks at it like this, puts it back on. There's the implant. He does this a half a dozen times. He can't figure out why all of a sudden there's the implant. And Richard and I are looking at each other. We're just cracking up because we know exactly why the implant is showing up, because, the Lord sent angels or whatever. We didn't see anything, but the bad guys were cleared out of the room. Let's put it that way. And then 20 minutes later, I'm holding the implant in my hand. And then 2 days later, we're at SEAL Lab looking at it under a scanning electron microscope. at this point, I took Roger. I said, Raj, we're at Seal Ave 2 days after we removed the implant. It was on a Saturday. And I go, Roger, can you come out in the hall with me real quick? I just want to ask you something. So he comes out in the hall and I go, Roger, I hope you realize what happened in that operating room on Saturday. His eyes get really, really big. And he goes, LA, I now believe that there's a supernatural component to the abduction implant phenomena. And I'm going to tell Whitley Strieber about it. So 2 weeks after that, Rick and I were down in Peru. We come back from Peru. We were filming down there. We got back like a week later, Roger died.
Wow.
And I think he was taken out.
Yeah.
My opinion. I think he died in the doctor's office of a massive heart attack. I think they got him. That's
Right.
conjecture.
What is like the first time that somebody discovered that there were implants? Do you have any history on that? Because obviously it takes a while.
I do. So in my opinion, it goes like this. You have 1945, and I talk about this in the book, Rungs of Disclosure. 1945, you have Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay. 47, you have the Roswell event. And the Roswell event, that crash is right outside Roswell. And in Roswell, New Mexico, is the 509th Bombing Group. They are the bombing group that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They are the only bombing group on the planet that has nuclear capability.
Interesting.
48, Israel becomes a nation. So for 1945, the bomb, 47, Roswell, 48, Israel becomes a nation. The entire UFO phenomena as we know it, including, that's the picture of the Kumburgaz UFO taken by the late Dr. Roger Lear, right there. Best UFO footage
that one
I've ever
shows
seen.
actual like grays in the control box.
The grays are in.
You can see them.
And that's where the whole phenomena just takes off. And that's where we see the implants begin. That's where we see the breeding program with Karen and Emil and Al Matthews. Everything starts in 48. Betty and Barney Hill, the first abductees on record. Yep. Crop circles begin. Everything starts because Israel was the timepiece. Why are UFOs obsessed with nukes? Why? We broke the story in our Watchers film with Robert Salas. We broke the story.
We had him on the show.
Richard Shaw.
We had Robert on the show. He's a gem. Yeah.
Gem. Yep. But we broke the story. We broke the story in our Watchers series. And the reason why he would come on the record with us is because we allowed him in post-production to give it thumbs up, change this, do whatever you're going to do. And no other production company would do that. So everything begins, and in 1948, the whole thing just takes off. So Robert Salas is the base commander at Maelstrom, and there are 10 intercontinental nuclear missiles, ballistic missiles, that he's guarding. They're all switched off when the UFO appears over the gate at Maelstrom. They're all switched off at the same time. So why are they interested? Why are they obsessed with nukes? This is conjecture on my part. If you have a nuclear device go off this is in the last chapter of the book, Rungs of Disclosure, lamarzulli.com. Got a lot of props.
Love it too.
Yeah.
You have a nuclear device. You have a nuclear event going off anywhere on this planet. That creates the greatest climate of fear that humanity has collectively experienced. Yeah. And because we're all linked up because of the internet, we watch it in real time. And we're all sitting here going, oh my gosh, is this it? Are they going to blow us all to smithereens? That's when they show up. How do I know that? Because they're obsessed with it. They know that this is conjecture, but it's based on decades of research. We think we've connected the dots. They know that the time of their permission to go is with some sort of a nuclear event. That's why they show up in 45. That's why the Foo Fighters are buzzing all around, not only in Germany and in Europe, but also in Japan. So, we know that they're flying around. This is it. And here's how I got there. When Jesus casts out the demons of the man of the tombs, They say, what have you to do with us, Son of the Most High God?
Mhm.
They know who he is. Here's the kicker. Have you come to torment us before the time?
Yeah.
Have you come to torment us before the time? How do they know that 2,000 years ago, this is not the time of their torment? They know what it looks like, and it doesn't look anything like it did 2,000 years ago. How is it that Satan, when he's cast out from heaven, he falls to earth and he knows his time is short? How does he know that? Because they can see through time differently than we do. They're not all knowing, but they see through time differently than we do. They just do. Time is, to them, is completely different than it is to us. We're stuck in the space-time continuum. But because these entities are from other dimensions, the time as we know it doesn't apply to them.
Right.
It's fluid, so they can bounce back and forth. This is how demons can imitate. This is what ghosts, blurry creatures really are. When demons materialize and act like that person, like at a grave site, and appear as that, they've just figured out who that person is. They know they can go back and see the whole thing like a movie. Conjecture, but that's how I think it works. So the idea that once the nuke goes off, everything just explodes. Israel becomes a nation. Israel, in my opinion, is the timepiece for the end times, because this is Amos 9:14. And, for all you out there who are secessionists and don't believe Israel has a right to the land and all this other stuff, Amos 9:14 and 15, found in your Bibles, by the way. You can blow off the dust of that book after the show and read it for yourself. It's a scripture that we should all know and memorize, because it's so pregnant with meaning. And it says this: I will bring back the captives of my people, Israel. I will bring back the captives of my people, Israel. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. So I will bring back the captives of my people, Israel, check. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them, check. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them, check. They will also plant gardens and eat the fruit from them, check. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of the land I have given them, says the Lord your God. So what do you do with that?
Can't. Yeah,
because that's never happened until 1948. And, they're never going to be plucked up out of that land. You can have Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39, that coalition, which seems to be forming even as we speak. The idea of Iran, Turkey, and Russia coalescing together and going up against a land of unwalled villages, which we may be looking at maybe in the spring. I think that's when it may happen. That's conjecture, but I'm not a date setter, and that's conjecture on my part. Underline conjecture, please. But that's what I think it is.
So we have Roswell. We have this nuclear technology coming on the scene. We have prophecy, biblical prophecy, all happening, but then to go from that to somebody knowing that they're putting metal implants in people is, where's the connection there in terms of okay,
here it is.
All right,
here it is. Conjecture. A lot of conjecture, but again, it's based on in the field, taking out the implant, seeing what it does, seeing its properties, and it's this real investigative journalism.
It's a database hypothesis. You're looking at the data and saying, here's what it says.
Well, these are the conversations we should be having. As a church, we should be talking about this stuff, and instead of constantly mulling around some of these elementary topics, this is the heavy stuff. This is the meat.
This is the deep end of the pool.
Yeah.
We know from the biblical prophetic narrative that in the latter days, when the Antichrist comes to power, you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade without the mark. We also know that anyone takes this mark, they wind up in the lake of fire. So this mark from the forehead or the back of the hand is not just a barcode. It does something else. In my opinion, it changes the host's DNA. So you become a modern day Nephilim. It changes your DNA.
Seed war. Yeah.
Whoever's doing this whoever has been implanting people for decades now have spent a lot of time and a lot of resources. How do we know this? Because the implant, patient 17, Emil, his implant was 40 years old, and it was completely different than the implant number 16 before that, where you could only cut it with a laser beam. And we know that it interfaced with the body through the nervous system. We know that. So in my opinion, when they show up, we go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. I'm going to read you guys something. We created these tracks. I want to thank my friend Brad Myers. This is from our 9th and 10th cover of our UFO film. So I'm going to read this to you. This is channeled information. Okay. Channeled information is when a person goes into a trance and allows an entity to work through them. They can use automatic writing like they did at Fatima, or it can be something like Madame Blavatsky, again, automatic writing. It can be going into a trance and then just allowing that entity to speak forth through you. So this is from a book called Bringers of the Dawn, Teachers from the Pleiadians by Barbara Marciniak. And this is what she says through channeled information. We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. Stop right there. We are two. God is God. I will never attain godhood. I will never be God. We are two. He's God. I'm made in his image and likeness, but I'm not God. So there's lie number one. If human beings do not change, if they do not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth they could not be here, then Earth, in its love for its own initiation, is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. That's Gaia, where Earth is somehow has a consciousness, a spirit or whatever. As Christians, we do not believe that. We do not believe that planet Earth has a spirit. Now, before I move to the next thing, which is the punchline, I was in a redwood forest up at Big Sur a while back, and there's a 1,000-year-old redwood tree there. And when I walked up to it with the people that we were with, I immediately felt the Lord. And I looked at everybody and said, I'm not getting woo-woo on you, but this is sacred. We are standing on sacred ground. And I went over, to the astonishment of my peers, and I hugged the tree.
You hippie.
I hugged the tree. Why did I hug the tree? Out of respect for the tree. It is a living thing, but that tree has been there 1,000 years. 1,000 years. And that in itself, it's not, the tree's not, it's not an inch like the Lord of the Rings, and I'm not going to have a conversation with the spirit of the tree. That's not what I'm saying. But it was out of respect for God's creation. I was hugging the tree and acknowledging, wow, Lord, you've created something that lasts 1,000 years. My mind is completely blown. And I had never seen a 1,000-year-old tree. So it was sacred to me, not because it's alive or it's Gaia or the spirit of the tree is about to impart knowledge. None of that. It was to the Lord. Lord, you created this tree. This thing is 1,000 years old. My mind's blown. I have no idea how that works.
Us California natives know all about these things. Like you see things in California you don't see anywhere else in the world. It's such a unique place to be, and
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the punchline. Here's the punchline. I heard this 5 decades. I heard this 50 years ago when I was 24 involved in the New Age. I knew nothing about the rapture of the church. So this is channeled information. With all due respect to Barbara. Barbara, call me. I love you, but you're misled, in my opinion. So this is the channeled information from the Pleiadians, i.e. fallen angels. They lie and do so habitually. Here it is. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during the time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. I'm not making this up. That explains away the rapture. And they've already explained it away. They've already told us that, these people aren't ready. So I got this from Mondo Gonzalez and
yeah.
Jeff Van Hatten, because the sign, one of the sayings I coined: we go up, they come down; we go up, they show up. All right. So Elijah the prophet, when he goes up, Elisha, his servant, watches him go up.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. When Jesus ascends to heaven, he just doesn't go whoop. He goes up slowly. The 500 or whoever, how many witnesses are there? I think it's a lot more than the 11 disciples and the 2 Marys. I think it might be, hundreds and hundreds of people watching him. He goes up. Does he look down and wave one last time?
That slow elevator. Yeah.
Right? Right? Exactly. So here's the deal. We go up into the clouds, they come down. There's your great deception. That ties in with exactly what the Pleiadians are channeling through Barbara Marciniak.
Interesting.
There it is. And you got to remember, I heard this 50 years ago when I was in the New Age. So for those of you who think I'm crazy, the biblical prophetic narrative states this: for the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and the dead in Christ will rise first. And then we who are alive will be caught up together with them in the clouds to greet the Lord in the air, and so shall we evermore be with him. When the 2 witnesses are killed and their bodies lay on the streets of Jerusalem, they are resurrected, and the entire world watches them do what? They ascend where? Into the clouds. Elisha, clouds. Jesus, clouds. 2 witnesses, clouds. Fatima, the UFO, the disc-like object, came out of the clouds at Fatima. We have 2 films on that, by the way. So, in my opinion, the implant is the mark of the beast.
Well, that's interesting, because I think the abduction phenomenon might be creating hybrids, and all the hybrids are going to influence the rest of the people who haven't been, their bloodlines haven't been tainted, and they're all like here to maybe usher in this mass think, this herd mentality of like, everyone get the upgrade. Yep. And the actual chips you're saying are the it's a way to implant sort of this technology that converts us from human to transhuman. And you have these two phenomenons going on at the same time, but 2 different goals and objectives. Is that what you're saying?
Because when they show up, they will say that they created all life on this planet. They genetically manipulated early man. They started Earth's earliest civilizations, started the world's religions. Look, when these guys show up, we might, the people who are here, they may see Jesus, the ascended master, come walking out of a mile-wide ship. The bottom line is this. This is predictive programming. And why it's loading, I'll walk you through it. This is predictive programming. This is a Super Bowl ad from 2024, this year. Okay? This year, the Super Bowl ad, 2024. And in that ad, this ad is 1.5 minutes long. So on Super Bowl ads cost a whole lot of money. A lot of money. This is 1 minute and 30 seconds. Normal Super Bowl ads are 30 seconds, maybe.
Yep.
You don't even know what they're advertising till the last 5 seconds. Then you see a website makes it real, Squarespace, the last 5 seconds of the film. So it opens up, and I'll show it to you, but I want to walk you through it. It opens up with sort of a montage, and you see Walter Cronkite. UFOs are nothing new. Oh, thank you, Walter. I really appreciate it. And then it shows the goofy paper mache aliens that Jaime Maussan, with all due respect to Jaime, because I love him, he's a great guy, but I'm not believing that those little things in the boxes are real. I think they're constructs. End of story. Believe what you want to believe. It shows that. It shows briefly the congressional hearing, UFOs, and it shows a woman with her cell phone, and she's walking, let's pretend this is the cell phone. She's walking on the streets of New York City, and she's looking at congressional hearing on UFO phenomena. It shows the gimbal, but she's like, she doesn't like that. So she scrolls, and now we have a cat clawing the toilet paper. She gets a big smile on her face, and she's happy. Then it cuts to, I believe, it cuts to a diner, I think. It cuts to Paris, France, where a huge mile-wide craft is over the Eiffel Tower. All these kids are sitting there on their goofy cell phones. No one's looking up. Then it cuts to a diner like in Texas or West Texas or New Mexico, and a man and a woman are eating, elderly couple are eating at the diner, and the woman is looking at her cell phone. Gee, what else is new? And it says celebrity bacon diet. It's just perfect, right? Celebrity bacon diet. Meanwhile, the dog outside the diner in the back of the pickup truck is barking furiously because there's a mile-wide UFO over the whole city. Then it over the area where they are. Then it cuts to Japan, and they're up on 20 stories high, and they're at a board meeting, and UFOs are outside buzzing around, and everybody's on their cell phone looking at their tablet, so no one's paying attention. So I'm going to share right now. So here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Scorsese.
That, my friends, is what I call predictive programming, because what they're signaling and telling us that this is a global event. So you got Texas, New York City, Paris, France, and Japan. They only have a minute and 30 seconds. So they can't do Moscow and London and Rome. But you get the point. It's in a line. Texas, New York, Paris, Japan. Boom. You know, it's a global event. And there's more than one craft. It's everywhere. And notice the woman, she's like filled with awe. This is predictive programming. This is where we're going.
It's like Independence Day when they show up and everywhere, you know that. Yeah.
Same thing.
Cousin Eddie's flying the biplane right into the mothership. It saves everybody, you know.
No, so here's the punchline. They show up. They will say this: we created all life on this planet. We genetically manipulated early man. We started the world's religions. We started the world's first civilizations. Now at this critical juncture, because of the atomic bomb that went off somewhere on the planet, we, your progenitors, your creators, are here to usher mankind into a global age. But some of you aren't ready for this, and that's why we've already taken them off the world, because they're not ready. Just like the Pleiadian says, and I'll say it again: the people who leave the planet during the time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of Earth. That would be us, because we're fundamental born-again Christians who are rigid and entrenched. I had a woman on who claimed to be an Arcturian hybrid, and when I started challenging her in a nice way, she said, well, LA, you know, that's the problem. You're just clinging to the dusty old pages of your Bible, and you'll never be able to evolve. And I just said, you bet I'm clinging to it. And they aren't dusty, by the way, but I am clinging to the pages of my Bible. So this explains away the rapture. And then they'll say, guys, because we created you, we have this upgrade back on track with the implants. You take the implant, it will extend your lifespan 300 to 500 years, disease-free. How do we know that? Because when Emil had the implant, he was never sick.
Yeah.
Right? But you take the implant, which is the mark of the beast, and you wind up on a lake of fire, because in my opinion, it changes your DNA so you become a modern day Nephilim. Transhumanism, you're no longer human.
Yeah, I think so much on our show, there's a battle for, you know, more than just the hearts and the minds, but the flesh of human beings. And I think that's something we've discovered on our show, that like the image that God created us in is also something that they hate. They hate the way that we're made. And I think sometimes we're so focused on the moral parts, the sin, that we don't understand like what we're encased in, what we're designed by, and who loves us is also up for grabs. And that biological war that you're talking about is just as real as all these other wars that we fight as Christians. And I just think you give so much context to that, and I appreciate your work because, there's so much.
Thank you.
There's so many
Praise
skeptics, and you deal with them. We deal with them in different spaces, obviously, but it's real. It's coming, and I think that part of the abduction phenomenon plays right into this because we've seen in the last. Since 2020, the groupthink that has taken over, and people just do whatever their neighbors are doing, and people are not thinking independently for themselves and going and resisting and pushing back and say, I'm not going to do that just because everyone else is doing it. And I think that this seems like you said, predictive programming to accept the next upgrade, the thing. You're not going to get sick.
It is.
You're not going to.
Well, it also sounds a lot like the ancient alien theory, right? Like this idea, the Anunnaki. This is, it's predictive programming, right? It's the idea that like, here's another idea. It's ancient, right? We get it from the Sumerians, but they came from this planet and they planted us here and gave us technology. It's literally, and it's funny because Solomon said nothing's new under the sun, and you go, it isn't, right? Even the thing you're reading about the Pleiadians is this idea that you eat the fruit and you can be like the gods, right? Nothing is new.
Nothing is.
It's the same line. It's the same one they've been telling since the beginning, and I just why I think it's an honor, LA. I mean, you've been in this work in this space for at least almost 40 years, I would guess, right? In that space, and I mean, Nate and I have been doing this for 4.
Yeah,
and it really is an honor to get to. To chat with you and kind of sit here and listen to the wisdom, your research, and all your data, all of the data you've collected, the data-based hypotheses, right? Because we're always looking for better answers. And I think as Nate said, these conversations are so important because many will be deceived at the end. That's we're told that. And I think if we don't push these things into the light and discuss them and allow for discourse, right? Allow for us to ask questions and to ruminate and to chew on the meat, spit out the bones, and then we can't help to end up being deceived by the things that are to come, especially these narratives. That narrative that they're pushing on Squarespace is not new, right? I mean, it's the same thing we were told by a Mason earlier on in the show that like they're here. Well, you also have they're taking care of us. They're going to step in before we destroy ourselves. And of course, it's a filmmaker. The last scene, Scorsese,
sitting there. And I wanted to read this quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer because I think it was interesting. I was reading it the other day. It says, "Being a Christian is less about cautiously avoiding sin than about courageously and actively doing God's will." And I think sometimes as Christians we get so obsessed with judging each other and trying to figure out who's the better person instead of actively trying to expose the dark side and saying God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I think that oftentimes we're so distracted by these small narratives and ignoring the big ones. And this is a big narrative that I think is important for the church to know, and we need to blow the whistle as loud as we can everywhere. We're going to get parts of it wrong. Ultimately, we don't know. We don't know every single thing that's going on with these nefarious programs, but there are nefarious programs, and we need to be aware of that. And then so I appreciate your work and what you do in this space. And we got to get you at BlurryCon. And
we got to get you out to hang.
I would love to do it. What a great honor.
Well, hey, before you leave, because you are you're an Irish exit guy. I know you go like, whoop, I'm out of here. I know you're Italian, but you're like, okay, time's up. But you've got your book is out.
Yeah, tell us.
New book is out. And then of course everything that you do. Where is it? Where can they find you? LAMarzulli.com. It was when it was released, Rungs of Disclosure, it became #1 in its genre. And we're already in our 3rd printing with Charisma Media. We signed the deal with Charisma on this. They're doing a marvelous job
on promoting it, but we're already in the third printing of it. And I got an email from Margarita, who works at Charisma. She's, and she says, "Well, we can't keep it on the shelves. It's flying out of here
for such a time as this."
Which is, that's exactly what it is. It's the most important book I've ever written. And they were going to release it in January when we were negotiating a deal. And I said, no, you got to release it in the fall. You got to release it now. So they rushed this thing through, and it came out in October, and it's been selling really well. But the thing is, it arms everybody. It shows that the phenomenon is real. There's a physicality to it. We're going up the rungs on the ladder of disclosure. And these are, it talks about Luis Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Brett Baer, who says some women who are taken aboard UFOs become pregnant. We refer to Karen in the book and others in the book. It's important. And of course, David Grush, we have non-human biologics in our possession. And then of course, at the end, I give you the end conjecture, but I give you the scenario, which I believe was about to happen. So, yeah.
Our listeners, go out there, get LA's book, and thank you for also dropping our name on your podcast and on YouTube and promoting us as well, because we're all in this together. We're all trying to expose what's going on here. And LA, you were here long before a lot of us, and
I appreciate that, guys. There's glory to the King. That's right. He's the one that's giving me marching orders and giving you marching orders.
Tell us if you hug any more trees. Let us know.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, if you see a guy in the Santa Monica Mountains hugging some trees,
you found him.
You just passed the legend.
Yeah, there's a legend. He's on the trail of the Nephilim.
That's right.
But he
stay
took
on the
a stop
trail.
to hug a tree.
Stay on the trail. No, Ellie goes off the trail and starts hugging trees.
He gets back on it. He gets back on it, though.
That's great.
Thanks, Love you, LA. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys. God bless you both. Take care.
You as well. See you, brother.
Have a good day.